the June 6th meeting of the Everett School Committee. Could I ask the clerk to call the roll?
Yes. Student Rep. Dinah Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Barros.
Here.
Ms. Cardello.
Here.
Mayor DiMaria. Ms. Lambert.
Present.
Mr. LaMonica.
Present.
Mr. Mangan.
Present.
Mr. Marcus.
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Present.
Ms. Sarni.
Here.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Present.
9 members present.
We have 9 members present. We have a quorum. I would ask you all to please stand as we salute the flag. At this time, I would ask the superintendent to read the first item on the calendar.
Thank you. Yes, Roman numeral 3 is the reading of the records from May 16th, 2022.
I make a motion to waive the reading and place on file.
A second.
Motion is made and seconded to waive the reading and place on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, if we may, possible, we have a special guest here tonight, and if it's possible, I know we have a lot on the calendar, but if it could, I'd like to make a motion to take item number 3 off the calendar.
Second that motion.
No, I'm sorry, item number 2, I apologize, looking at the wrong number.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to take out of order item 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
And we have, as you know,
Well, I want to have the superintendent read the item
oh,
first.
okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's okay.
No worries at all. So item number 2 is the presentation of the National Football Foundation Scholar Athlete Award to Ishmael Zamor. And we have with us tonight our football coach, Rob DiLoretto, who's joining us. And I also see our scholar athlete, Ishmael Zamor, with his family and friends. I was hoping I could respectfully request that we invite them up.
So moved. Motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to invite this fabulous young student up, as well as the head coach of the football team. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Come on up.
Thank you for having us tonight. This evening, I am honored to present the National Football Foundation Scholar Athlete Award to Ishmael Zamor. This prestigious award is given out to only the very finest student athletes across the entire country. As a student, Ish worked extremely hard to achieve academic success at Everett High School. His attendance was outstanding, his engagement in his classes was superb, and his effort was top-notch. And the results prove it. Ish, as a student, earned a 3.89 grade point average at Everett High School, capturing straight A's through COVID. We all know how difficult remote learning was, and he was a stellar student both during remote and hybrid learning. As an athlete, Ish is a football star. Several of his many accomplishments include being named to the Boston Globe and Boston Herald All-Scholastic teams and the Massachusetts High School Super 26 All-State team. Ish has also earned a full athletic scholarship at Boston College next year to pursue his dreams. To pursue his dreams of playing in the NFL and obtaining a top-notch education. Ish lives by the values of humility, kindness, faith, and love. He is truly a very special young man and a tremendous leader. Ish, tonight, as a city, we honor you. We commend your parents for guiding you and loving you. We applaud your administrators and teachers for mentoring and challenging you in the classroom. And we thank your coaches for training you. We celebrate you. You are one truly special young man, and I love you very much. Thank you all for having us here. We also have a gift for the superintendent from our entire football program,
You know what?
thanking
This might be an
Priya for your
I really
support.
feel like we need to take some pictures at this moment.
Madam Chair, I move to make a 5-minute recess so we can do a few
Second
pictures.
the motion.
Second the motion.
Oh, I want one. What about me? Motion is made and seconded to take a 5-minute recess for the purposes of taking some photos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? I know you don't have to vote on that, but anyways, we're in recess. Thanks, guys. This meeting will come back to order, and I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. So item number 4 is the report of the student, the Roman numeral 4 is the report of the student representative, and Roman numeral 5 is public comment, but that was actually a mistake. It should have been switched. So if somebody would be so kind as to make a
I'll make a
motion
motion
to amend
that
it.
we.
I'll make a motion to amend item 5 as be read first as public comment.
Motion is made and seconded to take item 5 first, or next. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. We have that.
I'll make a motion to open public comment.
I'll second.
Motion is made to open up public participation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. I have first on my public participation, public comment section, I have Trevon Carrington. Mr. Carrington.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Trayvon Carrington. I am a freshman at Everett High here. And for the wrap up the ending of the year, we have a project going around. It's a civic action project. Our topic is basically based on more field trips at EHS. We took lots of time to do this, and we took lots of communication and leadership, and we did an excellent job with teamwork. Unfortunately, the others aren't able here to make it, so they left me hanging tonight. But just to jump right in, we set off a problem to where students don't get the number of field trips that they deserve. We work all year and sit in a classroom, and it gets stressful at times. Students should be able to explore and experience new things outside of school. Not all learning is done in the classroom. Field trips can also help students be more engaged socially when they're in different environments. Field trips will also help kids take some stress off from all the work they have been doing all of this year. We took a little survey, and the question was, do you believe that field trips always have to be educational? Most students that took the survey said neutral, that it would be neutral to have it always educational. And a lot of students disagreed. We all know why they disagreed. But they're neutral, and it just gives us a little bit of feedback of how we can, interpret the situation better. We then took another survey, and the question was, if field trips were given to EHS students, would you actively participate in them? Most of the students says yes, roughly 190 students. And they would like them best in the springtime after a whole bunch of testing with the MCAS and finals and everything else is finished, or before then. We took a little research, and I'm not going to read it all because I'll be here next time, but showing a PowerPoint. But we took a little research, and 2 pieces of research that we took was, rather than providing cultural enrichment, field trips are increasingly being used to reward kids for working hard to increase their test scores. And it also showed that we talked to the chief financial officer, and she said that Everett has set aside $37,000 for field trips. Now, it was supposed to be a budget vote on April, I forget the date, but it was supposed to be in April. I'm not sure if it was voted on or anything like that, but she did say that it was supposed to be voted on because Everett did set aside $37,000. So I come here tonight just to provide our strategy plan, which is assessing to having certain grades to attend permission and permission slips being needed for all students. If this was able to, if we were able to go on with field trips at EHS. With the help for funding, we think we can make this possible after MCAS or even the beginning of 10th grade, knowing that we would have hopefully all you guys' support on trying to get us to have more field trips at EHS. For example, there is about 650 freshmen at EHS. They've went up. But if we divide into somewhere 5 places where students may choose, it would be 130 students per place if you do the correct math. So We think that we could have it to where it's first come, first serve, as in 130 students, they get a Google form and they pick wherever they want to go. And once the 130 mark is finished with, that's it. It's just a first come, first serve basis. So we think that we can assess into having that, but they need the certain grades to attend. And we all know that certain individuals don't test well at others. But it all depends on the teacher and how they act in the classroom as well, because behavior is one of the things that is amongst us and how we go about certain things. We searched up some laws from the Massachusetts Department of Education, Chapter 346 of the Acts of 2002, and Act related to safety of school-sponsored travel. For trip approval, we should take into account all logistic details involving transportation, accommodation, fundraising required of students, and the educational value of the trip in relation to its cost. The amount of time to be devoted to fundraising should be reasonable and commensurate with students' obligations for homework, after-school activities, and jobs, because we all know we have our own lives. I'm not going to share the full interview, but we took an interview with two or three teachers, and we just all basically summed it up together. One of the teachers reasoned that it would be encouraging to students to be more socially engaged. We know that we can get down at times, and EHS does a wonderful job trying to get us up back to where we need to be, especially after the pandemic. And that now all learning takes place in a classroom. She finally thought that witnessing performances, nature, metropolitan areas, and places they wouldn't ordinarily visit would be fun. She then believed that the field trips prepare us for life outside the doors. We know that a lot of times students go, oh, well, school doesn't teach us nothing. What is math and science and social studies and all of this stuff is going to do? But we believe that field trips get them better into the trading life and how life is after high school. Speaking that we have a lot of newer kids from all over. We know that Everett is the very most diverse population, and I just seen. Coming from other places, and they don't have the same background. We think it's good that they learn our culture and where we come from and what we stand on and what we believe in. Finally, we're just restating our acts, and would you be willing to allocate funding to increase the amount of field trips that Everett High students are able to attend? We all know that some will be able to go, some won't, but it depends on them, and it depends on if we can have your help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Lillian. Lillian, how do you pronounce your last name? Gorham. I should know that. I apologize.
Thank you.
Ms. Gorham?
Thank you. Good evening, school committee members. Most of your faces are familiar to me. I've been resident for a long time. Some of you have even come by the house and asked for my vote. What I'm here for tonight is I spoke to the council in April. I am very hearing impaired. It's known as deaf, I guess. I'm not quite there, but close. There's a law on the books. It's called the Open Meeting Law. Any open meeting has to be accessible to people with disabilities. I may look disabled to some people, but in a way, I am. I could not tell what that gentleman was saying. So what would be required and what they are doing down at the council chambers, we are having installed closed captioning. I went for that. I was down at the disability office about 5 years ago, and they just looked at me. We can't do anything. Oh, who's she? What does she want? And I let it go. And then this spring, somebody brought this law to my attention, and I decided to do something about it. So they have installed it, and the last director, who's no longer with the city, told me that they have ordered 4 hearing-assisted devices. You would use them if you go to the symphony, if you go to a play and you can't hear. They're used in a theater, probably even a movie theater, I don't know. So then, just very recently, well, I was told by the director when this closed captioning went on, it is a program that learns to recognize words. So the more it's used, the better it is. However, somebody just sent me something, and there's something better than that, that it's accurate out of the box. And that's what we should have. But that's not what we have down at the council chambers. When I first saw it on, some of my friends called me and they said, Lillian, this is ridiculous. We can't understand what's being said. So it has improved a little over time, but we need it here. This is an open meeting, and I know we're winding up, but you people are. You only have a few more meetings. I would think when you open in September, it will have closed captioning as live and as the best program. People at home tell me I would pay more attention to my city government, but I can't understand what they're saying. And that's very true. So I'm hoping when you start up in September, all this will be taken care of. If it's not, I'll be back, guaranteed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Next up, I have Paula Starrett.
No, Esteridi.
All right, I'll never forget it. Paula Esteridi.
Go up a little bit. Not too
Paula,
much.
come forward.
Closer the better.
Okay, thanks. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Tonight I have 3 things I wanted to raise. First, I completely support the resolution to support the protection of transgender students and their families. I believe it's every person's responsibility, especially those elected officials, to ensure the most vulnerable students and residents are protected from any hateful and hurtful words and actions. I hope you can unanimously support this resolution. Second, regarding the Malden transportation request for 4.5%. As a resident and taxpayer of Everett, I find it disturbing that this committee would even consider providing additional funds to Malden transportation. Are they any different or more important than any other vendor or contractor that serves the Everett schools? Many of you speak very highly of Malden transportation. You do realize Malden transportation is very well compensated by the city. From my public requests on top vendors, they're like number 10 or 11 of the top vendors in the city. In 2017, they got almost $4 million when gas prices were $2.41. In 2018, they got another almost $4 million when gas was $2.78. In 2019, they got a little less, $3,800,000 when gas was $2.72. In 2020, which is kind of the year of the pandemic, when the schools were mostly shut down, they got $3,134,000 when gas was $2.01. Did they offer to give back some of the money to the city? I don't think so. I don't have the complete number for 2020, but as of this request, it was $1,762,000, and the gas prices ranged from $2.40 to $303.40, I'm sorry. Who wouldn't think even having the discussion with Malden Transportation isn't fishy or suspicious? Why them? Why now? What makes them any different or any more special than any other contractor to the city? Lastly, I strongly recommend the school committee supports the efforts of the superintendent to start the replacement of the PA and phone systems with remaining funds in the school department. With all the crazy things happening in schools, why would we hesitate to make sure the schools can communicate and alert students, faculty, and staff of any risk of danger? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paula. Next up, we have Mr. Popolo, John Popolo. John, can you come forward?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. Good evening to all in the committee. Before I start with my comments, I would just like to say that I am extremely impressed with the public speaking skills. We have a freshman tonight. Did a hell of a job. I've seen a lot of speakers from the high school at city council meeting, at rally, and here, and on TV when they do appear, and you do a fabulous job. So I just wanted to say something really great is going on as far as the public speaking skills to have a freshman come up here and others and do a hell of a job. Nice job. I'd like to address some of what Paula came up with. I'd like to address what I consider fiscal irresponsibility with respect to Malden transportation contract. The attempt here to adjust the Malden transportation contract by 4.5% I find outrageous and an insult to the Everett taxpayers. From my understanding, this issue surfaced in first quarter, February-March timeframe, and to date, you still don't have full accountability for their financial situation, including the relief funds that they received, and which has to be taken into consideration in order to decide what you want to do with, if you want to do anything with funds. So I think we're kind of like been in a limbo state here for quite a few months. When you take into consideration that this is a significant donor to the mayor, the increase does not pass the red face test, no matter how anyone in this room tries to spin it. Where does this stop? Does every contractor vendor impacted get a shot at more money, including those that do not make significant political donations? You move forward on this, you know you're opening up Pandora's box. Every Everett resident has been financially impacted. Why not help the residents control costs to help lower tax increases? Why not take the 4.5% requested in an increase and spend it on the paging system and phone system? With all due respect to the mayor and his statement that he routinely approves and fully expects contracts to overrun by 25%, that raises several red flags. This sends the wrong message to contractors: underbid and overrun. This is not fiscal responsibility for the taxpayers. When it's not your money, it's easy to give it away. Just raise taxes. Well, that's not the fiscally responsible way to run a business or a city or a school system. Lastly, it's extremely offensive and unprofessional to see the way our superintendent has been treated in this room, including by the mayor. Ms. Superintendent, I keep you in my prayers to give you the strength to deal with the cards you have been dealt here. You don't deserve to be treated the way that you have been. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other
Make a motion to close public comment?
motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made and second to close the public comment portion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. So Roman numeral 4 is the report of the student representative.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent and Madam Chair. Hello, everyone. So before I start, I really want to take a moment to congratulate our class of 2022 who graduated. We are so proud of you. This year has not been easy at all. It has been very challenging, but we have some very impressive kids. All right. All right, so for today's report, I will give an update addressing student engagement. Okay, so again, the main goal is to amplify and encourage student voice in our community through leadership. A particular target in doing this is focusing and ensuring that we have our student advisory elections completed. So originally, the elections were supposed to be around June 1st, but they're being extended right now to around June 13th. So this report will primarily serve as an update as where we are currently in this process in student engagement. Okay. So again, for a quick review, so the Student Advisory Board is a district-wide position that consists of 5 members. One of those 5 members will be selected to be the new student rep. All 5 of them will be meeting with the school committee regularly, but one student will serve as a representative who sits at the table. Okay, next slide, please. So for the first phase in this process was advertisement. So not all districts had to necessarily go through this phase, at least as much as I felt like we needed to do it, since the Student Advisory Board is still, very new. So the first goal was really to ensure that the students have a base understanding of the position, and there was a session held where it included visuals on the position on, student advisory, also understanding the difference it has with student council, school committee, and of course the student rep. Next slide, please. So announcements were given verbally, thanks to Mr. Norman on the icon speaker. And then we have the blue flyer and also the white flyer. So the blue and white flyer was emailed to students with translations in Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole. So I had some of the translations reviewed by students to make sure that the language is, readable and friendly. And then the ones to the right with green, these were hanged up around the school. So huge thank you actually to Ms. Whitson, who helped me, be able to cut these things out. And she was a huge help in that process. I can't even. But yeah, next slide, please. So the informational meeting that I had for the students was a huge success. And I also want to thank Ms. Lambert, who was present there at the meeting to answer any questions the students had. And then next slide, please. So the next step in this election process were as follows. So ballot signups, and then some sort of way that students can kind of advertise themselves, and finally an election date. Next slide. So here you see some results so far on the data on about how many students per grade kind of gain interest in it. And again, so in relation to the student engagement, the first part was making sure that they understood what they were signing up for and, their role in student leadership in our city. Next slide, please. So at our last meeting, I hope to give highlights on methods that were used for student advertisement, so opportunities that students had, and then student election day, and obviously possibly presenting our new student advisory board. Next slide, please. And of course, our new student rep. All right. And please, for the public, if you have any students who are interested in signing up for the student advisory board, please email me. Please, at dinah@everett.k12maus. There will be an email sent out to students who have signed up, possibly tomorrow, on ways we want to make sure they have the opportunity to advertise. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dinah. I have School Committee Member Lambert.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just want to congratulate Dinah, and also thank Ms. McWilliam, who has helped support quite a bit in getting the election process. In prior years, we haven't been able to get 5 students to run. So to have a room full of students interested speaks to Dinah's work in engaging students, and I'm very excited. And great job. Very proud of you.
I have Mr. Marcus next.
Thank you for giving me this personal point to speak for a minute.
Wait a minute. Are you rising on a point of personal privilege?
No.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I have just a couple of things that I just wanted to mention. There's been so much outrage and panic and different things that have been happening in the
Hold
city.
on 1 second, Mr. Marcus. Are you rising on a point of personal privilege, or are you continuing on with this discussion with respect to Ms. Lewis? Are you rising on a point of personal?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, continue.
Okay, so, I'm
Chairman.
concerned, and
he
you
can
know,
up
you
to-
hear from people on the phone, but
You can do it.
I had
You can rise on a point of personal privilege anytime.
I had an idea that I don't know how all of you feel, but it's a serious. It came up about a year ago with Bishop Brown. Now, Bishop Brown, I met 30 years ago here. I was ringing the doorbells, and I went up to the church, and he opened the door, and he almost fainted. We went to junior high school together. We played basketball on the same team, so we struck up a friendship. And one of the things that I talked to him about trying to help out with we wanted to have a night, or a couple of nights at the church, as we were going to do last year, called Meet Your Neighbor. A lot of us don't even know our neighbors or who's who or what's what, but we have to start meeting. And
Can you state your point? I don't understand, like, you have to state a point. Is it
my
safety,
point is
health?
that we're trying to make adjustments, that we meet people, make friendships, and cut down on all this hate, all right? There's too much of it going on, and it's time that with some people taking their hands to try to do things. Yeah, it's good to get up and talk about it on the floor and everything, but let's just do it, you know? And I'm asking anybody that wants to help me do this, you know, we'll work with him. I'll talk to him again, and Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's going to take us time to get this. But I think there's a lot of people willing to meet other people, talk to them, and be one, get together. And it bothers me. I can't even tell you. I grew up in Dorchester. So
Okay, but just to let you know that personal privilege is for your safety, your health, the integrity of the body as a whole, and P is for the personal property, like somebody stealing something. So just to remind you, next time you wanted to rise.
all right,
on a-
I'll make a note of it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So I'm just saying, I will talk to him. I will try to get, you know, if anybody wants to help, then I would really just come to me, and you can go up to the church with me too, and let's get this started. And a ball that would roll. We're going to need a lot of help and a lot of people that care about this community, because it's definitely headed in the wrong way. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Getting back to the wonderful presentation that Ms. Lewis presented to us today, does anybody else have any comments? Yes, Ms. Sani.
I would like to wish everyone luck in the race, and hope to see you if you're going to run again and come back, and whoever comes up, we're going to welcome anyone that wins. So,
And could I just say something from the chair? I know how to run campaigns, so please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to hold a sign outside for you, whatever it may take. I think there's more than a few members that really value your input and value, you know, who you are, and so just want to let you know that. Okay, do we have any, do we just place this on file? Motion is made and seconded to place Ms. Lewis's presentation on file. All those in favor? Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. That was terrific. If I could have the superintendent read the next order of business.
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to take item, we do have some guests here that I think we should take out of order. One is, I think, item 10, number 2. I'm right, request from, if the superintendent can read.
I'll second the motion to take item 10, number 2, out of motion. Out of order, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So Roman numeral 10 is unfinished business, and item number 2 is the request from the administration to deny any amendments to existing contracts that result in increased costs of contracted services. I do continue to recommend we formally adopt a policy that prohibits us from considering requests in the future in order to represent a smart, fair, and consistent way to treat all of our vendors. We do have some guests with us today. We have Eric Demas, the Chief Financial Officer, and Robert Mareshi, who the mayor put forward a motion at the last meeting to have them join us for this portion of the meeting, as well as Anu Jayanth, our Chief Financial Officer. Oh, sorry. Did I mess up?
Okay, on the item, is there any motion?
To take it out of order? and-
Seconded that motion.
Right,
No one-
motion's made,
no one
seconded,
voted
take it
it.
out of order, and, we did vote on that, but we didn't vote on that?
No.
Oh, I apologize. I know you too. Love you. Motion is made and second to take this item out of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'll make a motion that we invite up Mr. Demas and Mr. Mareshi.
I'll second that.
I'll amend that to add Ms. Giant.
Ms. Giant, I didn't see her, I'm sorry.
Motion is made and seconded to invite Mr. Demas, Mr. Mareshi, and Ms. Giant up to speak on this matter.
So the closer the better for mics. Gotcha.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, they're here before us, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Sani?
Thank you. Thank you for appearing. On the contracts that we have in front, that you read every day probably and look over, there's different amendments to each one. I believe a lot of contracts are different and have different clauses. Do we see a lot with any like extra fees or costs that could add through the year that we might unforeseen?
I mean, are you speaking of one in particular? Or
No, just in
general?
just in general, because we have a lot of contracts, and a lot of contracts, sometimes there's stipulations in small clause that for unforeseen costs, you have, some extra costs.
So I would say that we have, our set of standard blanket contracts where we have, ability to amend each contract, right? But that obviously takes two parties. So it's, whether it's the school department coming to me with the vendor saying, we want to amend a contract. So that's the standard procedure for that. I would say in a contract like the electrical or plumbing contract where we have a line item in the bid form where it states, okay, if there's extra or additional work needed, there's a sort of labor rate for that. I don't know if that's what you're speaking of, but I don't think we have anything that says unforeseen circumstances.
So I know a lot of businesses right now are taking a big loss in contractors, big businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them now are rewriting when they start bidding, they put in extra costs in these contracts. So if they say unforeseen costs, meaning that cost goes up of material, labor, mainly labor, material, because as you see now, everything's gone up.
Right.
So are you seeing that new contracts coming up at all? Are they in any old contracts that have anything written to cover?
I mean, I could check and, go back, but I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I think one of the things we have to recognize is when we sign a contract, we have to pull a purchase order. In order to pull that purchase order, we need the funding to cover that. So anything beyond that has to be negotiated between both parties.
The other question I'm going to ask, and then I'll yield to, is if someone has a contract and we haven't done the work yet, can they readjust the contract if the prices have gone up of material, say?
No. So the only thing you can renegotiate in a bidding process is with the low bidder to negotiate down. You can't negotiate up.
Could they cancel that they don't want the job?
They could.
They could.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Obviously, there would have to be some sort of, say, well, if it hasn't been signed, obviously they can pull out. But if we're in a contract, it has to be a written notice, at least 30 or 60 days.
Do I have anybody, Ms. Lambert?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief question, so I know one of the things that can be renegotiated are fuel surcharges, according to Chapter 30.
I don't think it's specifically called out in there.
It is. It says specific to fuel.
Okay.
So my question is, though, wouldn't it be standard if it was say, a transportation company that they would include fluctuation in the bid, and we would have to take that into account during the bidding process? Otherwise, somebody may have lost the bid because they had it and the other didn't.
Well, I mean, something we can definitely take into consideration. I mean, we really haven't seen this, in the 6 years I've been here, we really haven't seen that jump in, in gas and fuel prices since. Something we can consider, though.
I'm sure there's history going back. We have experienced fuel prices in the $4 range in the past. So it was just...
Yeah, it's something I could definitely check into.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to ask our Ms. Giant a question, if that's okay, from the chair. Do we have any other contracts with any other vendors within the school department that have asked for any increases of this, something similar to the request from Malden Transportation?
No, we haven't, but since this became a public discussion, we did have one vendor who kind of added it to their invoices, and we've sent it back because, again, it's not part of their contract.
Thank you for that information. Anybody have any questions of the invited guest? Oh, Mr. McLaughlin, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through you to Mr. or to Mr. Mareshi, whoever wants to answer it. But would you agree or disagree that making a cookie cutter sort of process for all contracts across the board is probably not best, seeing that they should be sort of individually based one-on-one, individually? Because as Mr. Jones said, there's a contractor that put something in their invoices that wanted to see, but if they had done what MTI did, they would have requested to come before us and to be able to be heard of why they were requesting such adjustment. And then we could look at that and see if there's merit to that, if there's not merit to that. But making a broad decision across the board gives us no range of being able to hear from individuals, contractors, companies, vendors.
So I would say to that, in that case, I don't think it's sound business practice to do that, to just have a broad thing across the board, because, every case is different. Every contract is different, whether it's building, construction, doing plumbing, or even just, buying supplies. So in my opinion, I don't think it'd be a good idea.
I actually don't necessarily think this is a broad, like a definition of a broad thing. This is a very basic, like we are sticking to the contract, because this does open us up, because if you do agree, a fuel surcharge is something that could be applicable to many vendors, right? So if we do agree to this, what would stop all our vendors from coming out asking for the same thing?
And I do agree that, but I do agree that they could all come forward and ask for it. I absolutely agree with that. But giving them the opportunity to be heard, we're going to go out to construction to build some storage facilities in the high school, take away some space and build some remove some storage facilities and hopefully add some classroom space in the high school. We go out to bid. Once we start to open up a wall, for example, there might be something behind that wall that we didn't expect to see in construction, that we may have to go back and readjust to be able to continue that project forward, to be able to complete that project. Not so much maybe the high school because it's a newer building and people know but I can imagine something like the Whittier School or something like the Malden, when we did the library over at the Malden several years ago. I could foresee something arising out of the not known Not because anybody did anything that was right or wrong rather. It's just because that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why I recommend, like, every contract should be taken on a, case-by-case basis. A good example of the Parlin schools, we did the floors over at the Parlin school up there, and once they did that, once they ripped it up, they realized, they had to rip up, some of the wood underneath, and that wasn't originally part of the bid, so.
Or you rip up a floor that you think is a hardwood floor, and underneath there you find those old square shingles that need to come up also because they're misplaced or they're cracked, chipped, or whatever. And to be able to overlay that floor, you need to get down to the subfloor. So now you need to do additional work that you weren't expecting to see, right? We don't know what's underneath. The high school is easier, but we don't know what's underneath the carpet here in the library. So if we were going to replace the carpet, we might have to do something additionally underneath this carpet that we don't see, because when we put the bid out, we don't know that we're going to have to go deeper than just removing this carpet. That's how I feel on the topic. I just wanted to get both of your opinions on this.
Just one other point, sorry to cut you off. I think it's important, back to Ms. Sani's point of, adding in upfront in the bid to allow for some of those costs as well, so.
Anybody else have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Barrows?
No questions for our guests. I'd like to speak on the matter, but not to our guests.
Okay. Do you have any? Go ahead, Ms. Sani.
Thank you. In the contract, some of them, how many do we have? Do you know how many contracts we have for the school right now? Roughly?
Off the top of my head.
I would need a day or two to come up with that information, so.
Okay. The only question, and the reason why I'm asking is, we're requesting to deny any contracts to be amended, and my concern is the only thing is if we deny any amendments, my thing is, can we say discretion of the superintendent bringing unforeseen costs, just in case, as an example, ripping up the rug, finding asbestos or something, just in case we do need, they could come forward and bring it to us, and we can make that decision when it happens. Is that something we can do?
That's a policy decision for the board here. It's not, anything in my control.
Okay, so, Madam Superintendent, to you, if I may,
So are you through?
Well, yes or no, I'm not sure who can answer this. If we have a contract and something is being done in the building, say we're having construction work, who oversees the work, and then if other unforeseen costs, who
So
oversees
just
that?
real quick, back to, sorry to cut you off, but in that case, it would be, the representative of the schools, whether it's, Anu or Mr. Obremski, and working with the contractor on that. I was speaking more of if, what the superintendent's looking for passed. I can't, guide you on that.
Can I make one quick comment? So I just want to, the difference between the kind of two contracts that we're talking about here, the cap on amending any existing contracts is really on capping contracts on vendors raising the price for the specific service or goods that they're already providing. Something like the construction example is something that would already be part of the bid, which is labor hours or something like that, cap maybe up to certain hours. And so if the work ends up being more than what was expected, we would, of course, have to amend the contract to increase the amount, but it's because we're increasing something like the labor hours. It's not increasing something like the hourly rate, because that was something that they won the bid off because of that rate.
Okay. I just had one more question. If we go out for bid for projects now, and the prices are so high, and we don't do the project till 2 years later, and costs come down, do we get the difference?
No, we would have to put that back out to bid.
Okay.
So basically, if we don't do it, we'd just rebid it again.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's hope that does happen, by the way.
Unless the superintendent needed to answer, I don't need any more questions. Thank you.
Okay, excuse three of you with the
Thank you.
customary thanks. Thank you so much, all of you. Have a great evening.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Barrows.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that our guests brought up their view on this matter. The price of food is pretty high now. So if we don't approve this, we could open up a potential that our food vendor, why not, come to us and say, you know, price of food is really expensive now. We need to have a different contract. A contract is a contract. The superintendent, not only this superintendent, but any other superintendent, always came before us when there was a need for additional cost for a particular thing to explain to this body why we need additional funding for a particular matter, and this body either approves or denies. But just to say that the price of gas is higher, the price of food is higher, the price of clothing is higher, we open up ourselves for different vendors to come to us and say, I need more because the price is high. They'll never come back to us and say, actually, I'm going to give you money back because now they gave petroleum from somewhere and the price is going to be lower. So I believe, as Ms. Giant explained well, there is always the possibility of increase on the cost, but not how it, not the price itself. So I would move to approve this request by the administration that we do not open up ourselves for these several requests from different vendors, and that we continue, of course, with the same idea, the same goal that we always had whenever there was an additional cost for a particular project, that the superintendent always comes, as any superintendent has ever done. We had other superintendents who have brought up to us before a request for an additional funding for a particular thing. But a contract is a contract. I believe our vendors should negotiate with us when they come for the bidding process, how it is the contract, how is the language of the contract, the possibility of any other thing that happens in the middle of the way, but not only based on what's going on, that we're going to come up and raise our price. Let's use our money for things like the telephone and other things that we need are more important in our schools. So thank you.
Thank you. I have Mr. Mangan next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Barrows. I believe I brought this up at the last meeting. The only reason I think we even moved this to this meeting was because of the Malden transportation issue. But I remember my 8 years being in city government, and then the little over four that I've been there now as a legislative aide. I don't remember anybody coming in front of us that I can think of off the top of my head that went to city government and said, we have a contract with, let's say ABC Construction's working on Ferry Street doing whatever, water work or something. No company's ever come in front of city government asking the city government. It's ultimately, they deal with the administration, and I don't see this being any different. So I would, I second Mr.
I have Ms. Lambert next.
On the motion, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate, and I'm glad you seconded it, because I would have, our responsibility is to the students and to the residents of Everett. Vendors are seeking our business. So opening the door, and the reason I asked the question about fuel is food is higher because of fuel. Everything is higher because of fuel. So where there is specified the fuel piece, that concerns me because that opens up a residual impact on all of our contracts. And it's not as if we're not talking about you open up a floor and there's more work to be done. That's different. That's additional labor. That's additional work. It's not saying, I know I said I'd build the house for $7 for each piece of wood. Now that I have it half done, now it's 10. That's different. That's changing the price. And I think in order to preserve the integrity of our body, I think it's important to memorialize this in a policy. I do agree with the superintendent or Ms. Giant are always welcome as the financial stewards of the school system. Of course, they're always welcome to come before us and let us know why they believe it should be done, and then it's up to us to decide. However, I do, and I know the word politics has been brought up, I do get concerned that when you can reach out directly to a committee member, that it changes the dynamic a little bit. So I think if we just come together and decide that this is a policy, there's a procedure for it, and once again, I'll use this as a platform to say it's time to get that policy manual for everything. But I wholeheartedly support Mr. Barros's motion.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. I have Mr. Marcus next.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I mean, I understand, you know, we've been throwing this around so long, and we got the letter tonight that he's withdrawing, but in the future, if something comes up, and it's very unstable things now in the world. I mean, we could be in a dire need in a budget, somebody, and it's just, we have to have some opening to help somebody, you know, along. If it's not gonna, if it's just gonna go along, and then an emergency comes up with somebody, and we really have to help them. I mean, we're gonna be blocking it, the whole thing, if we vote for this. So there's going to be an emergency. I mean, the economy it's probably going to go down the drain the way it's going now. Every single day you wake up and the gas, what's it, $5, $6? It's definitely going to go to $6. I mean, we didn't ever hear it, something like that. So I'm saying we should have some kind of mechanism or opening. So if something happens, an emergency, when we have to deal with one of these people, and it's more help, I mean, so we can do it. But if we just stop it, I mean, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Mr. Barros?
May I?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to remind my colleagues one thing. We do have a budget, and we have to reach that budget. We cannot pick up the phone in the middle of the year and call DESI and say, we need $2 million more because we are running out of our budget. DESI will tell us, no, do a layoff plan and lay off people because we are not going to give you $2 million more. There is a budget. So we have to control the budget that we have because we approved, the city council approved. We can't go back to the state and say, you know, there is a crisis that's happening. We need $2-3 million more. The state will be like, what? So we have to keep that in mind as well. Unless, of course, the legislature voted in the middle of the year to give additional funding to the schools, that's another story. But we cannot call our funder and ask for additional money because some emergency came up. That just doesn't happen. Thank you.
I have Mr. McLaughlin next.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Chairwoman, I understand Mr. Barrow. I'm going to start with what Mr. Barrows just said. I do understand what Mr. Barrows just stated about state funding, but I recall on the city council level of being asked for additional funding throughout the school year for spending additionally within a budget. And I always proudly supported that. I know many of my colleagues sitting in this table tonight always supported that. So it has come before us as city councilors to ask for additional funding throughout a school year once the budget was set. But that's neither here nor there. What does concern me a little bit, and I don't oppose this piece, but what concerns me is creating policies based off of one person, one situation, one instance. That I don't think is the best sound practice. If there was another reason why this was here, I would absolutely have no problem at all of supporting this. But to create policies off of one person or one company or one vendor, it concerns me, to be quite frank. I know that the word politics has been thrown around here, but again, there's no other way to look at this other than that. This is a policy that is based off of one individual, one vendor's request, and we've created this policy. I'm going to support this policy tonight, that's okay. But the fact of the matter is we shouldn't make this a standard in the future that we make policies surrounding or blocking individuals from being able to do business in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. McLaughlin. I have Mr. Mangan next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. McLaughlin, I've been friends for many years, but I have to respectfully disagree with him on the statement he just made. When they came in front of the schools, it was for additional funding, anything to supposedly to prevent teacher layoffs or anything. This particular item deals with contracts and contracts only. They didn't come to the city, or no request came to the city looking for money for additional contracts. This was to prevent supposed layoffs and so forth. This piece only deals with contracts, so I just don't believe contracts should be in front of us, just like they're not in front of the city government. No one calls up a city council and says, you know, can you put my, my whatever, I'm having issues with getting rid of the garbage and the thing. Can you put it on there so I gain the additional $100,000 because of fuel or whatever? That stuff never comes in front of city government. And that's all this says, Madam Chair, is that it's having the superintendent with contracts and contracts only. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded. Motion was made by Mr. Barros, seconded by Mr. Mangan, for favorable action on the request from the superintendent. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barros.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
No.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
No.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. I have 7 in the affirmative.
7 in the affirmative.
I have 7 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative,
Two in the...
2, sorry. I'm getting old, guys. But anyways, so I have 7 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. Obviously, the 7 in the affirmative prevails. We have approved that request from the superintendent.
Resume regular order of business.
No, we have to do number 1. Madam Chair, if I may, we only did, that was item number 2, right? Oh. Oh, okay. All right, that's fine. I don't know if you wanted to, because it was the same thing, but that's fine,
Take
whatever.
it. We want to just get this out of the way.
I'll move to take section 10, item 1 out of order.
Motion is made and seconded to take Roman numeral 10, item 1, out of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 1 is, if I could have the superintendent read item 1 from Roman numeral 10.
Yes, so Roman numeral 10 is unfinished business. Item number 1 is to amend the existing contract between the Everett School Department and Malden Transportation to include a 4.5% fuel surcharge, retroactive back to a starting date of Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, with an ending date of Thursday, June 30th, 2022, and this was submitted by school committee member McLaughlin.
Madam Chairwoman, on the motion, I'd respectfully ask that Mr. O'Connor read the email that was sent to all the members of the school committee from the owners of Malden Transportation.
Motion is made and seconded to request that Mr. O'Connor read for all of us in the viewing public at home the correspondence that was dated June 2nd from Lester and David Moravitz on behalf of Malden Transportation. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. O'Connor, could you read that for us all?
Okay, the letter begins. We want to take this opportunity to formally withdraw our fuel surcharge request. While we appreciate everything that the City of Everett and Everett School Committee has done for us in the past, we have recently become very disheartened with what we have seen and heard in the school committee meetings since submitting our letter on March 14th, 2022. When we originally sent this request, we were simply seeking the surcharge based on the unprecedented inflationary environment we are facing and the fact that over 90% of MTI's school bus fleet is dedicated to Everett students. This surcharge, coupled with the issues arising from the pandemic, has harmed many businesses. We are not immune to these historic economic events. We were seeking a discussion and a continuation of the partnership that we have shared with Everett for many years. However, what we experienced is very different. We have been caught in the middle of a political crossfire. Malden Trans has proudly serviced the city of Everett for 30-plus years and has an impeccable record. We are proud of our history of providing safe and reliable transportation and superior customer service to the city and its parents. We support the Crimson Tide and many senior citizen organizations in the community. We have always made ourselves available upon request to whomever came to us. We have always had an open door policy with any member from the city of Everett to visit our operations. We have attempted to be fully transparent as a partner and stakeholder in the community. Since the height of COVID to the present, we have been asked questions about our financials that, as a private company, we were not obligated to answer. However, we answered every question in full transparency. After all of this, it was therefore shocking to hear words such as suspicious and that Malden Trans made this request to, quote, help our profit. Such words spoken by city leaders carry weight and are harmful to both our relationship and our reputations. Everyone has a right to an opinion, but it is wrong to issue non-factual public accusations that blemish the hard work and reputation that our family and this company have worked hard to achieve for 30-plus years. It endangers our continued business and potentially damages our entire MTI family of employees. We are not a political figure or a participant in public debates. We are a simple family business that wishes to support our community and employees. We ask that such comments cease. We want to thank everyone on this email and all members of the school committee for the opportunity to speak on June 6th. However, we respectfully withdraw our fuel surcharge request. We wish everyone a happy and healthy summer. Thank you, and the letter is signed by Lester Moravitz and David Moravitz of Malden Trans Incorporated.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Chairwoman, I just want to give a little brief background because I have been under attack for weeks regarding this matter, and it's been kind of unfair, to be truthful. When we first got the letter in March, I simply called the Morowitz family and said, are you just looking for a discussion? And they said, we are. And I said, fair. I believe anybody, residents who come before us, as some did tonight, have an opportunity to speak to us and for us to pay attention to their words and what they say means something to us. And I have always consistently believed that and have always consistently listened. The reason that there has been a delay in a few of these meetings have been just life in general. And that's why it's taken us so long from March 14th through today. I put it on after it failed at 5%, after we were told that there was funding available. I put it on at 4.5% just because it was below the 5% that failed. It wasn't because I generally intended on 4.5% or 3% or any other percent. It was just based on getting the conversation back to the table so that we could give the vendor the opportunity to come and to be heard and to speak to us. I never committed to supporting 4.5% or any other percent. I committed to giving a vendor who has 30-plus years of business in our community the opportunity to be heard, which was their only request. Although they made a request in their letter, we don't have to support their request, but we should honor their request to be heard. So that is what I did. I put it forward. Unfortunately, again, I have been under scrutiny and attack of public records requests and other things as other members of this body has been under. I had no communication with this company. I've never spoke to this company. I never had any personal feeling one way or another about this, other than the same feeling I have tonight, which is that if somebody requests to be heard from us, whether it's the school committee or the city council, whether it's a resident, a student, a business owner, a parent, whomever, we should give them the courtesy of doing so. At this time, if my colleagues don't have anything, I will make a motion that we refer this piece back to sponsor, and I will ask for a second on such action. Thank you.
Second.
I have Ms. Cadillo. Ms. Cadillo.
Thank you. I have one question. I had asked it at one of our other meetings, and nobody had an exact response. And I do see Mr. Donahue sitting over on this side. And if the board will oblige me. It's a special ed transportation question, and I believe that Mr. Donahue could probably answer it.
Motion is made and seconded to invite Mr. Donahue to come before us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Donahue, please come forward. Ms. Cadillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Donahue. Simple question. How many students does Malden Transportation transport for us during the summer?
During the summer, it's usually anywhere from about, on average, 180 to about 190 students.
Okay. I did not know, and I know I see, living in the city, I see the buses all the time, and I know school's not in. So I knew there was something, but I kind of got an answer of, possibly one student, and I didn't think that they'd have that many buses going through Everett for one student. So it is that many. So that's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah, any of our students that are usually bused during the school year have summer programming. Then any of our students that are out of district, except for one school, offers summer programming as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Donahue.
Thank you.
If no one else has any questions, I'd excuse with the customary thanks.
Motion is made and seconded to excuse Mr. Donahue with the customary thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Donahue, for appearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, do we have a motion? It was made by Mr. McLaughlin to withdraw or refer this back to sponsor. Motion is made and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. We have 8, 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion has prevailed for favorable action. Refer back to sponsor. That's right. Okay. Thank you. I
Make a motion to resume regular business order.
Motion is made and
Second.
seconded to return to the regular order of business. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Superintendent, if you could read the next item.
Thank you. So Roman numeral 6, the report of the superintendent. The first item is the superintendent's update. So I will jump right in. A final emphatic congratulations to the Everett High School class of 2022. As you all know, our graduation ceremony was held this past Saturday at 10 a.m. inside Veterans Memorial Stadium, where we had a very packed house watching our seniors receive their diplomas. The class speeches were delivered by Jackie Branches, Sarai Velez, Sean Sheikh, Rithika Maharjan, and Emily Santos. I know I'm speaking for a lot of people when I said they did an absolutely wonderful job. The students' remarks were a wonderful mixture of thoughtful, intelligent, insightful, humorous, gracious, and memorable speeches. And to every member of the class of 22, we wish you the very best in all of your future endeavors, and we thank you for the contributions that you have made to this building and to our community in the last 4 years and even beyond if you were here earlier. And we look forward to seeing what amazing things you accomplish in your future. On a quick note before we move on, our TV studio also did a wonderful job of broadcasting the graduation live, and everyone can also access the video via the video gallery on the homepage of our website. So please feel free to check that out. Also, in the week leading up to graduation, we had many events, one of which was our annual scholarship presentation night on Wednesday, May 26th, inside the EHS auditorium. It was great to be able to renew this tradition in person with families, friends, and special guests in attendance. Kudos especially to our EHS Administrative Assistant, Linda Maloney, for her tireless efforts in planning this event and in supporting with the planning and coordination of graduation. And also thanks to Mr. Nauman for skillfully emceeing this event and graduation as well. Also, congratulations, of course, to the scholarship recipients for this meaningful reward for their academic, extracurricular, athletic, and community-based successes. We owe an awesome debt of gratitude to the individuals who fund these scholarships in honor of either EHS alum, distinguished residents who are no longer with us, and beloved Everett institutions, organizations, and families. Finally, I also want to thank everyone across the district who has played and continues to play a role in the long list of end-of-year events we've been holding over the last 2 weeks and will continue to hold for our students who are still in session. It has been a very joyous and busy time of year. And the occasions happen oftentimes so seamlessly that it's easy to forget how much planning and hard work goes into them by our staff and even by our students who help with the preparations. They all require full force from the district. So from custodians to our administrative assistants to teachers to volunteers, even to PE or PTOs who lend a tremendous amount of help. I just want to thank the entire school community for allowing these incredible events to take place yet again. To highlight even more of the amazing accomplishments of our students, last week, 5 members of the Health and Public Service Health Science Pathway completed the Cataldo Ambulance EMT program under the guidance of EHS educator Susan Lomas. The students are Jackie Branches, Sean Shake, Anna Clara de Lima, Samantha Velasquez, and Livia Thomas. The year-long Cataldo EMT program involves a really rigorous training and techniques such as trauma assessment, breathing emergencies and intubation, CPR, AED, and many more. Training was led by our Cataldo EMT educators, Mark Forrest and Tommy Richer. This is a great opportunity for our students, as being an EMT is in and of itself a wonderful and fruitful and fulfilling pathway in its own right, but it's also an entryway to careers such as being physicians, nurses, physician assistants, paramedics, etc. So congratulations to these 5 amazing students for their hard work and their success. Another shining example of success and achievement, as well as the diverse opportunities that we are trying to provide for our students, is College 101. 7 current EHS students have been accepted into the College 101 program that's offered by Fisher College. College 101 provides our students the chance to earn college credits for free as juniors and seniors in high school, and it also represents a chance to get ahead academically and financially by completing a summer session. So courses offered include psychology, principles of management, introduction to criminal justice. We will provide transportation from Everett to Fisher College, as the program does utilize a hybrid format, and classes begin on July 11th. They're held from 8 to 9:15 a.m. on Mondays and Thursdays. Students who complete the program will take part in a commencement ceremony on Thursday, August 18th. Over the past 2 years, we have been trying to make efforts to create more educational opportunities for our educators and staff. And I want to thank this body for their support, as well as the district leadership team for building partnerships in this area with colleges and universities in order to make this possible. So this slide highlights the programs available to our staff at Southern New Hampshire University and Regis College. So the Southern New Hampshire University program is available through partnership with a nonprofit organization, Duet. Participants can earn a bachelor's degree in communications, business management, or healthcare management. EPS educators receive 50% tuition discount toward their SNHU degree, and Duet provides personal coaching and technology at their lab. Coursework is project-based and classes are held online. Currently, the Everett Public Schools has 6 paraprofessionals, 3 students, 2 family members, and 3 family liaisons who are currently enrolled in this program, and approximately 12 more are in the process of enrolling. The Regis College partnership enables EPS educators and their family members to acquire bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and EDDs. Currently, we have 5 teachers enrolled in the program. Additional highlights and potential benefits of this partnership include discounted tuition for on-campus, online, and hybrid degree programs, discounted tuition for Regis College courses offered at EPS facilities for cohorts of 10 or more students, customized professional development workshops for employees, flexible transfer policies, and more. Obviously, this is an ongoing important initiative, and so I will keep you regularly updated on the investment as well as the fruits of this investment. Turning our attention to Everett High School students, we wanted to commend the junior members of Mr. Eric Pierce's Carpentry 2 class. The students designed and made the 2 beautiful and durable picnic tables, which you've probably seen, that now occupy a place outside of the front of EHS. 2 more tables will soon be completed and placed outside for students and staff to enjoy. The Carpentry 2 class selected the octagon designed from a project book, and the work commenced during the winter. The tables feature pressure-treated lumber and galvanized hardware to ensure that they can withstand outdoor conditions. And Mr. Pierce and his students are discussing whether to stain or paint the benches, but they have not made any final determinations there. But I just want to say bravo to the students for developing a project that benefits the EHS community so greatly. Not just during COVID, but especially during COVID, we've seen the benefits of being outside and spending our time out there to eat lunch. So we certainly appreciate this then, but it also provides us with a wonderful space to enjoy the beautiful outside of the Everett High School even regularly. On Wednesday, June 1st, Everett High School held its first ever LGBTQIA+ flag raising event. A large gathering of students and staff joined together in the Crimson Cafe for a celebration on the first day of Pride Month. Throughout June, the Pride flag will fly above Everett High as a sign that we are a safe and welcoming school community. And I want to thank all of those who made this event possible, starting with the members of Everett High's Gender Sexuality Alliance Club, and the co-advisors of which are Mr. Mark Lent and Mr. Sean Hare. Thanks also to Library Coordinator Mary Pulio for all her help in organizing the festivities, the EHS Culinary Arts Department for providing food and refreshments, to our very own school committee member Almeida Barros for sponsoring this event on behalf of the school committee. Thanks also to Senator Sal DiDomenico for taking time out of his busy schedule to show his support for this effort for students. And I do just want to applaud everyone who gave remarks at this event. I think they illustrate what advocacy and acceptance mean to a community, and they highlight Everett's deep and awe-inspiring diversity. Their remarks taught us, I think, a lot about courage and compassion, but also about the work that still lies ahead of us. I'd like to also give a special shout out to EHS student Ezra Rosario for her heartfelt words on behalf of the Gender Sexuality Alliance, as well as Don Washington and Kay Mangan, who spoke on behalf of Everett's LGBTQ+ Youth Space and Resource Center. To listen to these young leaders is to be convinced that the future of the Everett community is in very good hands. Also, as many of you know, on June 3rd and 4th of last week, the Cavarian Drama Club presented Seussical Jr. The show was absolutely spectacular. I'm so proud of our students who were dynamic and artful in this production, and I also want to give a huge shout out to Britt Mitchell, the director, Eric Dowenhauer, the music director, Haley Petratus, the choreographer, and all of the other wonderful educators who served as stage managers, lighting designers, soundboard operators, and more. It took a huge team effort from our staff, students, and parent volunteers, of which there were many, to bring this production together, and I can't thank them enough for their tireless efforts, and I look forward to seeing many future productions. Also, congratulations to Everett High School science teacher Anna Siders for successfully earning a Doctor of Education degree from the University of Massachusetts on May 13th. Her dissertation was entitled The Effects of Immersive Teacher STEM Career Experiences on High School Teacher and Student STEM Career Awareness and Student STEM Attitudes, a case study. This dissertation explores how STEM domain teachers incorporate career awareness within the classroom, which is obviously especially essential for attracting underrepresented students into our STEM college and careers post-high school, and is obviously very relevant to our school community. As Dr. Siders asks, if students don't know what their options are, how can they pursue them? So a further shout out is due to Dr. Siders too for traveling to Romania during April vacation to work with Ukrainian refugees.
That's pretty impressive.
Vaccination rates among school-aged residents continues to be in a similar place in the 70% range and continues to crawl up slowly. And as the slide shows, we recorded 88 cases in May. As we wind down the school year, we do ask to continue, everyone to continue to make smart decisions about their health and to try and stay home if they're experiencing any COVID symptoms, especially in these last few weeks of school. And finally, to shout out myself, I wanted to...
Please do.
I wanted to take a moment to give you all some good news, because this is certainly a team effort. Recently, I had the honor of receiving the President's Award from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. I was presented with this award at the MASS spring meeting, and I had the pleasure of sharing that moment with members of our central office and our chairperson, or Madam Chair. I do want to thank members of my team, our students, teachers, and staff, our community members, and our school committee for your immeasurable support over the last 2 years. I am proud to serve in this role and am even more proud of the work that we have been doing together, which is why my superintendent updates are so long, because I have a lot to brag about of all the work that we're all doing. And I think this also demonstrates that other cities and external organizations are recognizing the great work that we're doing here in the Everett Public Schools, and I think that's really exciting. They see our courageousness, our collegiality, our ambition, our creativity, and our successes. When people look at the Everett Public Schools, we do want them to see unity, not division. They do see a diversity of opinion and freedom of expression, as we've seen here tonight. They see people who love education and who are dedicating huge parts of themselves to our students, schools, and families. They see people who live for moments like Saturday, when we had a remarkable group of students receive their high school diplomas, and they see a school committee, a leadership team, and an entire school district that is ready to take the Everett Public Schools to new heights. So thank you for joining me on this journey that I hope is still much longer to come. And as always, I'm happy to take questions at this time.
If I could, just from the chair, before anybody else says anything, the superintendent was too kind when she mentioned me, because I actually crashed the event, because only educators were allowed, I guess, to participate. And I had to get special dispensation, but nobody was stopping me from being there on behalf of the school committee. And congratulations, Superintendent Talahani, for what great job.
That is correct. She is the first ever school committee member to ever come to that meeting. So
you know I'm not shy, right?
She's a trailblazer. So thank you.
Sure. Mr. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Chairwoman, just two quick things. One is Superintendent touched on the graduation. Congratulations on success on Saturday. So many departments came together, the city, different departments, police and fire and the custodial staff, and it was truly a team effort that pulled together a tremendous graduation, and it moved along very well. Mr. Norman did a great job emceeing it, and but there was a lot of hard work that went in by a lot of different individuals that pulled it together to make it happen. And but it was truly a great opportunity to be there and to celebrate the student successes as they move on to their next future endeavors. I just have one other quick question for you, Madam Superintendent. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that starting in September, they'll no longer provide testing kits from the state for COVID. Are we going to look at what possibilities or resources we will need to be able to provide testing in our schools? And should we start that conversation sort of now leading into September?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we did a lot for continued PPE in our budget for next year. We do anticipate that we will need to have things on stock, such as the tests that go home, the tests that we do in school, masks. So, unfortunately, those days are not behind us. Even DESE and the commissioner, while they are not providing these things formally at this point, they have let us know that we do need to be preparing just in case. And I'm sure that while we will make sure to stockpile these items as well, that, DESE was really good this year at trying to provide it to us as well. So I'm sure they'll be waiting to see what do the trends look like, and that we will certainly receive inventory from them as well in the case that it is needed, but we will not wait for that time to come. We will make sure that we do have items in stock.
Okay, so I didn't actually, so we will still have potential to get in stock from Desi? I thought that said that it was going to end.
No, it is going to end. I'm just predicting that if there is an uptick, the way
They'll
that they
change
did this
process.
year, that they would try their best. But I think at this point, like in all of our budgets, everybody's being sort of conservative in how much we're planning for it for next year. But I will say that they've been very, very good about kind of coming through with the contracts when it was needed. I think right now they're just kind of telling the districts to plan for it and that they will support if needed.
Okay, great. So I just wasn't sure if we needed to think about that for next year, school year, so that we don't come back in September and have sort of the situation that happened in January.
Yes.
And have a scramble of trying to get tests and so forth for faculty and so forth. Great, I appreciate it, and congratulations on your award.
Mr. Barrows?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add to the superintendent. She was a little shy when she mentioned about the award that she received. Just for the public to know, this is the highest honor that's given by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. And she got this award for her, I'm quoting them, for her courageous leadership. So she's a little shy of mentioning that. And she's also the first superintendent, I believe, to ever receive this award in such early time in her tenure as a superintendent. Usually superintendents who have been there for such a long time, close to retirement, received, and she's been superintendent for 3 years, I believe?
2.
2, it sounds 20, in Everett, and she received this award. So she was a little shy of mentioning that, but as I know this award, I want to mention that and congratulate you again for receiving this.
Any other comments or questions of the superintendent? Oh, Ms. Sani.
This is just informational with the superintendent. On the testing kits that we have, do we have a lot in stock? Because I noticed they're outdating them, and also they're drying up. I know people that have residential programs, and they're finding that their expiration dates and the liquid's drying out. So just making sure that we check our stock and be prepared.
Yeah, so we're actually waiting to purchase later on in the summer for that exact reason, because we are coming up on expiry dates right now, and so we're trying to plan ahead so that they'll be usable later on.
And I'm really surprised that the state's not helping anymore, that September comes, October, November, December, we're going to see COVID come back, and they're not helping people, families, businesses. I just can't understand that, they're out helping other countries and not helping our own. So I think they got to rethink it, and hopefully they will come back and help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sani. Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations to Madam Superintendent. I have a clarifying question. Did we buy our own set of kits, something like that?
Set of kits?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even before Desi, we knew that they were providing them, for example, for April vacation. We went ahead and purchased them when we purchased the ones before February vacation, just because we weren't sure at that point if they were going to be providing them before April vacation, so we went ahead. So we had, twice as many as we needed, but again, you really couldn't have that many because we did end up giving them out and using them throughout the year and still continue to use them. So yeah, we did once, January came and we saw that, we tried to make sure we planned better for the rest of the year. Okay. And that's kind of informing our plans for purchasing for next year and not waiting to have them purchased for us.
Yes, I think it would be a good idea, because I remember a student representative from another city reached out because they thought it was a really good idea how we purchased it and then how we were able to distribute them during the breaks. So if we could keep that a little bit in the beginning of the year, it would be really good.
Absolutely. I think that certainly served us well coming back from February and April vacation. We didn't see the spikes that we saw in January. So,
yeah. And it really helps with monitoring the cases too, because other cities it's much harder to monitor it, but right now it was really helpful. All right, thank you.
Okay, no other comments, questions? I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a request to roll over the North Suburban Transportation Contract. This contract was awarded in school year 21-22 with an option to renew for up to 2 additional years in 1-year increments. So now that we're at the end of this school year, I was respectfully request the exercise the option to renew for the FY 22-23 school year. And as a reminder, North Suburban is what we use for our field trips.
Ms. Sani?
So the contract that we have in front of us for the second year, is that what we're going by? Because then I have a letter separate stating another price. So this contract has a second-year contract in it stating a price, and then this has a different.
Actually, I would request we
Make a motion to invite Ms. Giant.
Thank you.
Motion is made and second to invite Ms. Giant to come forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Ms. Giant, if you could come forward, state your name and your position.
Sure. Anu Jain, CFO.
Thank you.
So the question I have is, in the contract, it has multiple years. So on this one here, it has a bid price for second year. This letter here has a different pricing. What is the difference between the two?
So this is an example of a contract that we, it's the same service, but we had more field trips that we were pursuing. So it's a budgeted amount for the $150,000. However, we've been using North Suburban more than any other vendor. So we have increased the price to include more field trips. So the $150,000 is actually the amendment for this year, and then we're going to go into the second year of the contract next year. So this request is to roll over into the second year.
So the contract is not going to be changed or anything? It's just
It's the same provisions
price.
of the contract. It's just that we had more field trips than
And this is-
anticipated.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure what the two different was. So thank you.
Ms. Lambert?
It may not be for you, but if you can answer. So part of this was, I know we had heard from the high school students that they had less opportunities to go on field trips, and so we were actually increasing the amount. I remember we talked about it at the budget meeting.
Correct. That's it.
And then the only other piece I had, and like I said, this might not be for you, however, through the chair, I don't see a query or a background check in the contract, and that's typically standard with any of our student-facing.
I can get back to you. I'm pretty sure we have it. It may just not be included in the packet because they've been our vendor for the past couple of years. So I will get back to you on that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giant. Any other questions of Ms. Giant? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to excuse her.
Move.
Motion is made and seconded to excuse Ms. Giant with the customary thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Ms.
you.
Giant.
Can I make a motion to lay this on the table until the next one? I just want to make sure we have the query and background check information the next meeting.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion is made and seconded to lay this on the table to our next meeting. Clerk will call a roll.
Mr. Barrows?
Yes.
Ms. Cardello?
Yes to postponing it.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica?
Yes.
Mr. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Sarni?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano?
Yes. We have 9 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative. You have so moved. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a request to go out to bid for a venue to host a district-wide professional development event. Approving this request will enable us to find a venue to host that day-long PD session for all staff in advance of the 2022-2023 school year. We'll reserve a location that has parking and enough space to accommodate all of our teachers and paraprofessionals and other staff for all staff presentations, as well as having breakout groups as well.
Favorable action on the request?
A second.
Motion is made and second favorable action on the request to go out to bid for a venue to host a district-wide professional development event. Roll call vote.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Barros.
Oh, thank you. On the motion, if I may, just as the superintendent, is this the first time that we are doing such a professional development in a different venue and having all these presentations?
Since I've been here, yes, I actually can't speak to before, but we did do this for the first time for administrators and directors last summer at a different event, a different location, similar to this, but obviously it was a much smaller location.
Terrific. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Chairwoman, would it be better to do an RFP so that we could see proposals first before going out to bid on this, if it's the first time that we're going to do this?
So again, I would request we invite up our CFO. I believe
if that's a better first step on this is to.
I think for the reason we were going out to bid is because then you choose the least costly vendor. But if you'd like to make a
Motion is made, and do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to invite Ms. Giants back up. I know you're getting your exercise in. I hope this counts towards your steps for the day. Thank you, Ms. Giants. If you could just please state your name.
Sure, Anu Giant, CFO.
Thank you.
Ms. Giant, thank you. Ms. Giant, does it make more prudent sense to do an RFP request and then go out to bid on the scope of the RFP that we put forward? If this is the first time that we're doing this, we won't necessarily have the scope of, not work, but the scope of expectations of what we're looking for.
So the reason we were planning to put it out to bid is because our scope is not specific. I mean, kind of, we're constrained by some specific things. So we want a space large enough for X number of people. We want the space to be able to provide food because, we don't want to waste time like having people go in and out. We plan for three or whatever, 2 or 3 day, full day sessions. We do want parking. We want to make sure it's within a 16-mile radius. So kind of with all those specs already in place, that was why we were planning to put it out to bid.
Okay, so, and I appreciate that answer. Through you to Madam Superintendent, if possible.
Are you through?
Yeah, I am. I didn't know if
Does
anybody else
anybody have
wanted.
any other questions, Mr. Giant? Mr. Barros?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Giant, correct me if I'm wrong. An RFP is only needed, of course, you can put an RFP for any amount, but by law, it's only required if it's over an X amount of money, which I believe is 50,000.
50,000.
50,000, is that correct?
Yes.
So if it's less than 50,000, you do not need an RFP. You can do if you want, but you do not need an RFP. And of course, if the school was going to spend more than 50,000, an RFP is required by law anyway, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Like for something like this, for example, we'd also want a place that would afford us multiple dates. So we may decide we need another PD mid-year. So if we've already gone out to bid for this, we could go to the same place, even if at the first time we spend less than 50. Because if you end up spending less than 50 on one space and then 3 months later use the same vendor for something else and that's less than 50, so you think you're okay, that's really considered stringing. So you really should have gone out to bid with that in anticipation in mind.
Correct. Thank you.
Ms. Cardillo?
Thank you. Through you too, Ms. Giant. How do we go out to bid without having a formal bid form in RFP? I know we don't need it if it's not enough money, but we can. I just don't know how we actually go out to bid. Do you just make phone calls and get prices, or just?
So we usually contact places that we know may have the capacity to do so and ask them if they can submit a bid. So we have spoken to multiple vendors that may satisfy our requirements. We may end up with only like one bidder coming in because some places have the parking, but maybe more than 16 miles away, and our teachers, our staff, it's a little hard to get to places further away. But there may be only one place that would have, check all the boxes that we need, but that's okay because we've put it out to bid. We've given everybody the leeway to apply for it.
Will this only be like a once-a-year event?
This particular one, yes. But we may decide that we want to use the same space for other PD sessions we may have, which may be much smaller as well, but just it's more comfortable since we already have a vendor that we've bid out, and we could use them since they're now an approved vendor.
Okay, so you're talking about one for like 3 days, all the staff that PD is required of, and they would have full-day sessions and be able to eat, use the facilities wherever you're going. It's sort of like this, a Spinelli's type of a thing that would be big enough to house everybody and so forth.
Yes.
So, okay. So you think it's easier to just do it this way? Or would you just contract them like for one venue at a time? Is that how you would do it?
So right now, what we've put into the bid specs is 2 specific dates that we know of that we want to have
Yeah, I saw that.
PD for, but this is another example actually of like if we, decide that they fit all our requirements, it's something where we can say we'd like to use them for a couple more events. So it's amending the contract to increase the contract amount for something we've already budgeted for, but it's a new service. They're not charging us more for this specific date. It's just adding on more dates if we want to.
Okay. So, okay, thank you. I'm all set,
Do
thank
I
you.
hear any other questions for Ms. Giant? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to excuse Ms. Giant.
So move.
Mr. McLaughlin.
No, not for Ms.
Oh,
Giant.
okay.
Excuse
So motion is made in second for favorable action to excuse Ms. Giant with the customary thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Giant.
you.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Madam Chair, through you, I'm going to ask if okay to ask Mr. Barros a question, because he stated something that I just want to get clarification on, if okay. Mr. Barros,
But everything has to be directed
Yeah,
through
that's
the
why I
chair.
said through you.
Okay.
It's $50,000, Mr. Barros, for an RFP to go out to bid? Is that what you stated?
I believe so. I'm almost sure, but I cannot guarantee that's 100% true. But if I recall correctly, it is $50,000.
Okay, so 50,000. I was just thinking that multiple days, you're going to have to look at a place like the DCU Center, not, it's too far away, but the DCU Center or the Convention Center in Boston, or some big facility that's going to have to host 600 plus employees, right, Madam Superintendent? You're not going to be able to get a Spinelli's or Anthony's a Malden type of place. So that cost is going to rise quickly. And that's why I wanted to hear that number that Mr. Barros had stated, because I do think that number has the potential to go quickly. And if we can just kind of resolve it now so that we can go forward with this, I have no problem going forward with it, but that's why I asked for whether an RFP was in place for it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cadillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just looked over and I see Mr. Obremski is still here. I know no one from the city is still here, but I know Mr. Obremski has worked with RFPs with Mr. Moreshi and so forth over the years. It's possible to bring him up and maybe he has the answer to that question.
Motion is made and seconded to invite Mr. Obremski to come forward for the purposes of answering this question. Motion has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Obremski, can you come forward and state your name and your position for the record?
You have 2 opposed.
2 opposed?
Charles Obremski, Assistant Superintendent of Schools.
I will yield to School Committeeman McLaughlin because he had started this conversation. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman, through you to Mr. Obremski, and the simple question is, do you know the number, the sort of cutoff number, or that?
There's 2 different things here, I believe, and Ms. Giant can jump in if she needs to. There's a difference between an RFP and a bid process. An RFP usually is based on somebody's qualifications and so forth and so on, like a scoring rubric. A bid usually is based solely on price. So you can do it both ways. Like, for example, the food service, which will be coming up shortly, was based kind of on both. There is a price in there. So there are 2 different issues. I believe Mr. Marconi on a straight bid was correct. Anything over, I think it's $49,999. He's basically right on 50,000. Has to go out to sealed public bid, I believe is the correct terminology in the law on a bid, on a bid. If it's over $49,999, I believe. I know they were looking at the legislature of amending that, but I don't think it's been amended as of yet.
Is there a number on RFPs, Mr. Obremski?
Well, an RFP, usually the first part is based on a scoring rubric.
Oh, I get you. Sure.
So depending on the venue, whoever wrote this, and I'm sure it was a combination of a lot of people in central office. It has to be close, like it says under a 16-mile radius, because you don't want the teachers traveling. It has to have 800 parking spots. So that's sort of part of the scoring rubric, in there. Because they have to meet all those qualifications to be able to bid on it.
Thank you. Mr. Barros, do you have another question of Mr. Obremski?
No, Madam Chair, not to Mr. Obremski.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to excuse him with the customary thanks.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to excuse Mr. Obremski with the customary thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Obremski.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Barros.
I just want to mention that perhaps my colleagues did not hear, but Mrs. Jayan, our CFO, confirmed to us that it was the $50,000 when I asked her. So I know that we vote to bring Mr. Obremski, which is fine, but just want to make sure that my colleagues heard Ms. Jayan, who is our CFO, confirming the 50K. And I believe thank you, Madam Chair, I believe the Superintendent.
Madam Superintendent, would you like to?
And I also mentioned about the price. And I think that, again, when we put things on, we are making the recommendation that the experts on our team believe to be best, and we do check with DESE as well. But I'm going to be very honest that this is not the first time. I feel like we continue to defer to people who are not the people that we have in that role. And it happened at the very last meeting when I was actually completely dismissed by a member of the committee, and others were invited up to say what I had just said. And I find it to be incredibly dismissive, and I actually wrote an email today asking for this kind of behavior and statements and motions to be curtailed, because I find them to be incredibly disrespectful. If you do not believe me to be qualified to answer these questions, or CFO to be qualified to answer these questions, I think you have a larger issue that we need to then come out and discuss.
Chair, on the motion.
Mr. McLaughlin.
I just want to make it clear that I wasn't the one inviting Mr. Obremski. I was okay with the answer. I just asked so we didn't hit that threshold with the number, and that we were looking at that going forward. So I didn't make the motion to invite Mr. Obremski. I just simply seconded a motion.
There's a motion on the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Sani. The motion is made and seconded for favorable action on the request to go out to bid for a venue to host a district-wide professional development event. Motion has been made, like I said, so I'm going to ask for a roll call on this one.
Mr. Barros.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes.
9-0, so moved.
9 in the affirmative. We have so moved for favorable action on the request. Could I have the superintendent to read the next order of business?
Yes, item number 5 is a request to go out to bid for stair tread replacement, tile replacement, and carpet replacement at various schools. The stair treads on Stairway A at the Lafayette School are worn out, and so they need to be replaced. Also, approximately 6,500 square feet of vinyl composition tile, or VCT, on the first floor of the Madeline English need That's what the area that needs to be tiling, because it's coming up in the main office area and the nurses area and a large section of the first floor. It's like bubbling up and needs to be replaced. Replacement of the carpet in the band room at Everett High School with luxury vinyl tile, or LVT, which is soundproof tile. There is carpet right now in the band room, and this was a request of Mr. O'Brien through Mr. Nauman as part of the budget process, as we believe it actually to be more sanitary, considering the playing of instruments and things like that. So these were not included in the capital improvements because they are actually considered general repairs, and general repairs are not part of capital, so I just wanted to clarify that. We always, within this body, pay for the upkeep of the schools, whereas capital is for the actual improvement of a building. And if there are any further questions, I would say that the expert on this would be our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Mr. Obremski.
I'll make a motion for favorable action on the request.
I have Ms. Lambert on the motion, and Madam Superintendent, please let me know if it should be Mr. Obremski. But I know this is a price bid form, but usually the request for insurance is also included in that, and I didn't see it. Shall I make a motion to invite Mr. Obremski?
Second.
Motion is made and second to invite Mr. Obremski to come forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Come on back, Mr. Obremski. You're going to add some more steps to your day.
Charles Obremski, Assistant Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Obremski. Usually in the price bid form, we see like the requirements for insurance is.
Yeah, if you notice on this one, this is really just a boilerplate that I sent that Ms. Giant, if she was putting something together, would send to Mr. Mareshi. The rest of the boilerplate will be put down by Mr. Mareshi when he puts the whole thing together, and that will be part of the process when City Hall puts the whole boilerplate together. So that will be included.
Okay. All right, thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Sani?
Mr. Bremski, do we have any older schools involved being any work on? Because I know in the past, when we do work at City Hall, when they rip up carpet, they might find asbestos underneath. So are we doing any old schools, or are these all new?
This is the Lafayette School, the English School, and the high school band room, so I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
I don't believe there is any asbestos at the time that these were built.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I know when at City Hall, we went to do a bid on it, and there was asbestos on the floor in one of the areas, so they had to hire a different company to make sure.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure.
If we thought that were the case, we would do some testing first.
Yeah.
Beforehand. We have an asbestos consultant on board that we have for those cases where that happens.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sani. Thank you. Motion is made and seconded to excuse. Can somebody give me a motion for that? Motion is made and seconded to excuse Mr. Obremski once again with the customary thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Obremski, for appearing once again. Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on the request. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barros?
Yes.
Ms. Cardello?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica?
Yes.
Mr. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Sarni?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano?
Yes. 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. You have so moved favorably. If I could have the superintendent read the next order of business.
Thank you. Item number 6 is to request to go out to bid for an on-call elevator repair vendor, and this is to repair our elevators when they break down.
Favorable action.
Second. With the roll call vote.
Motion made and seconded for favorable action on the request with the roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barros?
Yes.
Ms. Cardello?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica?
Yes.
Mr. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Sarni?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano?
Yes. 9-0, 9 in the affirmative. You have so moved. If I could ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Item number 7 is request permission to award the request for proposals for the management of food services to Whitson's Culinary Group. Your packet includes the information about the RFP and the process, but I did just want to give everybody a quick overview. Several vendors did show interest in the RFP, sent representatives to tour our schools and cafeterias, but only one vendor, ultimately our current provider, Whitson's Culinary Group, submitted a proposal. Still, as required, the team reviewed and scored the proposal with a rubric based on the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the United States Department of Agriculture. All requirements and conditions of the RFP were met in the proposals. Whitson's Culinary offers also a continuity of service. Its financial projections are responsible, realistic, and beneficial to the program. The management and administrative fee is $242,650, and the guaranteed profit to the Everett Public Schools is $1,384,339. The review committee is recommending that we award the RFP for operation and management of the school service program to Whitson's Culinary Group.
I move for favorable.
Second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on awarding the request for proposal to the Whitson's Culinary Group. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan. Sorry. Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 8 in the affirmative. I have none in the negative. You're so passed. If I could ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Item number 8 is a request by the Cavarian School to host a middle school dance on Thursday, June 9th. Unfortunately, the dance has been canceled, so you do not need to take action on this request this evening. I respectfully request that you refer this matter back to sponsor.
Refer back to sponsor.
I have Mr. Marcus.
I just wanted to ask the superintendent, now, this dance, we can go?
Well, you can go, but now
It's
you'll be
been
by
canceled.
yourself.
Oh, I couldn't even hear you.
Sorry.
No, I'm deaf. What did you say?
It's been
Motion.
canceled.
Okay. Motion is made and seconded
Oh, okay, I can't hear.
to refer this back to sponsor.
Can you get me a hearing aid?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to refer this back to sponsor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Sorry about that.
Seeing none, you have passed this. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Sure. Item number 9 is to request acceptance of a $500 award from the Middlesex District Attorney's Office to EHS for a post-prom graduation event that is school endorsed, supervised, and substance-free.
Favorable action.
Second the motion.
And letter of thanks to the Middlesex District Attorney's Office.
Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on the donation, as well as that we send a letter of thanks to the Middlesex District Attorney's Office. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello. Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 9 in the affirmative. We didn't have anybody in the negative, so obviously it prevails. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Item number 10 is to request the acceptance of a donation of approximately 5 yards of mulch from Ippolito Snow Services located on Ferry Street in Everett to the George Cavarian School.
Accept the request and a letter of thanks.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the donation and a letter of thanks be sent. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 9 in the affirmative. You have so moved. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Number 11 is request permission to dispose of the following 355 modern chemistry textbooks at Everett High School, which was requested by Diane Perito from the Science Department to dispose of 355 books. They are entitled modern chemistry, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are at this point in time. And also 167 iMac desktop computers, which is a request by Mr. Obremski to e-recycle 167 iMac desktop computers that are old and no longer work with our current software.
Favorable action on the request to dispose?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on the request to dispose of the two items, the A and B. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello. Ms. Lambert.
Yes, with a thank you for defaulting to recycling.
Mr. Mangan. Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 9-0, so moved. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Item number 12 is request approval to remove and recycle books from 3 elementary schools. So this is actually part of our ongoing inventory efforts of our books and resources. In this instance, we are asking to recycle 7,185 books from the Madeline English, 3,938 from the Whittier, and 1,607 from the Parlin. Our thanks to Library Director Mary Pulio for leading this critical work to ensure our resources are up to date, diverse, accurate, useful, appropriate, and aligned to our curriculum standards.
Move for favorable action.
Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on the item. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 9-0, so moved. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. So we're on to Roman numeral 7, which is items submitted by school committee members. One item under this, which is the resolution for the protection of trans students and their families. And this was sponsored by Ms. Lambert, Mr. Barrows, Mr. Mangan, and Ms. Cristiano.
Ms. Lambert?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I may, I'd like to read the resolution for the body.
Absolutely.
Whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has a long history of standing for civil rights, including advocacy for a Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution, and whereas Massachusetts codified gender identity as a protected class in the 2011 Act relative to gender identity, and whereas all children deserve a safe environment in which to grow up, and whereas some state governments are now criminalizing supportive medical care for trans individuals, moving to bar families from traveling to access such care and otherwise violating the civil rights of trans children and their families, and whereas the defense of the civil rights of the historically marginalized is contained within the first article of the Massachusetts Constitution right of seeking and obtaining their safety and happiness. Therefore, the Everett School Committee with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees call on the Great and General Court to join with other states in the passage of so-called sanctuary laws to ensure such children and their families have the power of enjoying in safety and tranquility their natural rights and the blessings of life as guaranteed by the Constitution of the Commonwealth. I would ask my colleagues to support this, not only to affirm our dedication to inclusion and the Everett School District, but to also call on the state alongside our colleagues in other districts who have passed this in past weeks, and will be a resolution on the Mass Association of School Committees to put forward to the state delegation. And that's that.
Motion is made and seconded on the resolution. Any other comments on it? Mr. Barrows, I thought you were sleeping there for a minute.
You thought
Please.
I was Thank you, Madam Chair. If this body approves, which I hope we do unanimously, if the superintendent could send this to the leaders of our GSO to share with our students to make sure they know that this body has hopefully approved this and know that this is an inclusive community, while other states and some other school districts are out there trying to ban our kids to be who they are. We are sending a message that we are not one of those So I would appreciate if the superintendent could send that out to our students through the GSO.
I
Thank
have Ms. Sani.
If the sponsors don't mind, I'd like to add my name to this resolution, if the members don't mind.
I'd be thrilled.
Absolutely not.
I'll make a motion to add, amendment to
Second.
add.
Motion is made and seconded to add Ms. Sani to the resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. And we have a request, motion is made and seconded for favorable action on the request with the request of the superintendent to ensure that our student body is aware that this legislation has, we've voted favorably, if we do vote favorably on it, that they're aware of our stand. And did I miss anything? Okay. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 9-0, you have so moved. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. So Roman numeral 8 are subcommittee reports, and we have one report on the Finance and Negotiations Subcommittee from June 1st, 2022.
Mr. Mangan?
Oh, no, I just moved to accept the minutes of that meeting.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Motion is made and accept the minutes from our most recent Finance and Negotiations Committee.
Second.
Motion, okay, clerk, roll call vote. Sorry, guys.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 8-0, motion passes. Mr. Mang?
On bills and payroll, Madam Chair, I wish to submit the amount of $2,347,745.90 for bills and payroll.
I'll second. Roll call vote.
Motion has been made and seconded to submit bills and payrolls in the amount of $2,347,745.90. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. You have approved submitting the bills and payrolls?
Madam Chair, I also now ask for a motion to pay bills and payroll in the amount of $2,347,745.90.
I will second with a roll call vote.
Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on payment of the bills equaling $2,347,745.90. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barrows.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 8 in the affirmative. You have so moved. If I could ask the superintendent to read the next order of business?
Thank you. So we are on to Roman numeral 10, unfinished business. We have one item remaining, which is number 3, the request to roll over the contract of Camelot Special Events. So this is a company we use for select services, including audio services. It was introduced during our May 16th meeting, and we did have some follow-up questions that CFO Annie Jayant did answer to our school committee member. Just as some additional information, the Camelot contract ended as of June 2021, and a new bid was put out. They were the only ones that bid, but did so incorrectly by emailing it instead of mailing the packet. So because of this, we had to redo the bid and put it out again, which happened in October of 2021. So year 1 of the current contract now expires as of June 2022, and we are requesting the option to renew to a second year.
I move for favorable action.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded for favorable action on rolling over the contract. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Barros.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni.
Yes.
Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. 8-0, so moved. I would ask the superintendent to read the next order of business.
Thank you. Roman numeral seeing no items under new business or hearings, we have one remaining item under Roman numeral 13, matters for executive session, which is to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to wit, 2 Everett School Committee members.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session, and we'll convene in the executive session. We will not come out to this body.
Motion is made and seconded to reconvene in executive session. Just to let the public know, if this passes, we will not be coming back out in open meeting. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Barros.
Yes.
Ms. Cardello.
We'll be adjourning from executive session, is that correct?
That's correct. Sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica.
Yes.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Sarni. Chairwoman Cristiano.
Yes. Thank you. We are going into executive session. Thanks for participating tonight.